This is a huge tragedy for the people of Ukraine unfolding before us. It was something that the Russians should have known not to do, but I'm afraid that the threats of economic sanctions that President Biden and others were making obviously didn't deter Putin. It may be he didn't believe we would carry through with the threats of sanctions. It may be he believed that they weren't severe enough to stop him. To me, it was a reflection that that in the United States and in NATO, we didn't think hard enough about what would deter Putin. I had said going back to December, I felt we needed to put more American troops into Ukraine, more NATO troops, not to fight necessarily, but to be there with the Ukrainian troops so that the Russians would have to worry about it. And I think it's a great tragedy that we didn't do that. I think there are different explanations for the different administrations. I can speak with personal knowledge of the Trump administration. He didn't understand Ukraine. He didn't understand what the threat was. He liked strong men like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. But he had his only real knowledge of Ukraine was the conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton's famous server was hidden somewhere in Kiev, and that there was a conspiracy theory to help Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election and Joe Biden in the 2020 election. That was what the famous phone call with Zelensky was all about. I can't begin to describe how frustrating it was as we were trying to get weapons to security assistance to Ukraine. I'll just tell you that at one point, Trump asked me if Finland were part of Russia. So that's another example. He just was not in really the real world on this. The problem with Obama and Biden, they believe in something called the rules-based international order. They talk about it all the time. Tell that to Vladimir Putin. But sadly, the learning of this lesson has come too late now, but there are still things that we can do. I think that the West as a whole faces a lot of threats, and certainly the threat from Russia, the threat we see unfolding today in Ukraine is most imminent, most at the top of our minds. But Russia and China have formed an entente. China is, I think, the really this century's existential threat to the West as a whole. But China and Russia are working very closely together. And I think it relates in some part to the question you were asking about the efficacy of the economic sanctions. Let's say the West really did cut off Russian exports of oil and natural gas. I think it's entirely possible that Russia and China, perhaps when Putin was in Beijing for the Olympics, made an arrangement whereby China would buy all of the Russian oil and gas they could supply. China is an energy poor country. It already takes some hydrocarbons from Russia, would probably much rather take more rather than have them come from the Middle East with its risks of instability. So this is a very, very important moment for the West, and it's a sad and tragic moment. But if we don't learn from what's happening right now, then the threat will simply grow to others, be it well beyond Ukraine. I think that's what Putin is counting on. He wants people to see this as a NATO failure. I think he sees a weaker NATO as meaning a stronger Russia. That's why Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and Poland as well are so worried today. Maybe the Western Europeans aren't so worried, but the people in Eastern Europe are very worried for good reason. And I think, I hope that they are thinking about how to explain this better in Western Europe and the United States. This is going to be a long conflict, one way or the other, not just militarily. This is about very, very important values in Ukraine and the West as a whole. So it's a discouraging moment right now, but not one where we should lose hope, because the struggle is going to go on. Well, you know, it would be nice if in Russia, the people who don't approve of this, which we're told by the press, is a very substantial number. Certainly Russian businesses should be very worried. The Russian stock market is down 45% today. And I think it's very important for everybody in Ukraine to be telling their friends in Europe in particular, but also in the United States, where there are many descendants of immigrants from Ukrainians, that this is not a time to say, oh, well, it's a long way away. It doesn't have anything to do with us. It's a time to say, we do not accept that this can happen. This unprovoked aggression can happen to a peaceful country that's part of the West.